What is up, guys, and welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I am, as always, your grateful host, Cam Williamson. Great to be back with you. We're kind of on a stroll here. I was going to try to get something up Monday. Couldn't. Got busy. Had to, handle some stuff. I'm here on Wednesday. It's good to see you. Hope you guys are looking forward to these little dates that we're having. I'm learning to get the cans out of the way, or else the autofocus is going to focus on that and not me, and that's a nightmare for all of us visually. All right, guys, it's been hot. It's been extremely hot the past couple days. For those of you that haven't been keeping up, I work in a kitchen. I work at a pizza joint bar. I'm a delivery driver. It's hot as shit in those kitchens, right? Even if they have air, if you're still working around ovens and shit. So when it's 95 degrees outside, it's about 110 degrees inside. All humidity, and then pack bodies in there. Yo, what happens? What happens when it gets hot? People get a little irritable. Yeah, the things that would have otherwise not been such a big deal, now that you're sweating through your shirt just by standing still, that's a real problem. If you have to do some disgusting task like dishes, where you're sticking your hands in water with people's food and shit and prep food, and it's gross, right? Tensions can get high. Attitudes can get quite poor. And one thing that I see a lot is complaining starts. A lot of complaining. I'm guilty of it myself. This is not a casting of judgment. When it's hot, I'm better in the heat than I am the cold, and I promise we're not going to talk about the temperature the entire time, but I'm leading up to something here. Stick with me. I'm such an asshole. When people get uncomfortable, right? I'm better in the heat than I am the cold. I'm a baby when I'm cold. I don't like being cold at all. So I would rather sweat, and I don't know why, but I was never really that way, but when I was in Guantanamo Bay, it was 100 degrees with 100% humidity every single day. And you didn't get to wear shorts and a t-shirt, you were still in your uniform and stuff. So when I get to work, I dress for work. I'm still wearing jeans and boots and shit. And everyone's like, dude, how the hell are you wearing that in here? And it's like, well, I didn't really think about it. But now that someone brought it up, I am very uncomfortable. Damn, these jeans do feel heavy today. And it's like, some things aren't a problem until you make them a problem in your own head, right? And when you see the way that people behave, when it's hot and you're busy and people keep repeating, oh my God, it's so miserable in here. Oh my God, it's so hot in here. Jesus Christ, it's just over. And they're just constantly mentioning it. It's like you're making it more miserable, because if you were able to just focus on whatever it is that you're doing, you wouldn't even be thinking about how bad it is. And there's tricks to the trade, right? You can go walk in the walk-in for a minute, go into the freezer and take a couple breaths and all right, get back out there, It's one of those things where there's literally a saying, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, right? It gets hot. Tempers get hot. People get, their egos shot down because, again, sometimes when things change and people are uncomfortable, people aren't always trying to hear someone else's bullshit in that moment. They're like, man, I'm kind of in survival mode here. And one thing I'll tell you about, just dealing with the situations that you're dealt, as uncomfortable as they may be, I'm going to kind of get into the episode now where I'm not just talking about work. But, life can become very uncomfortable, I think, right? And we could do that by our own doing, and it can get very uncomfortable just without are asking for it too. One of the things that's always made me very uncomfortable has been the thought of being alone for an extended period of time, not having people to come home to and not having someone to bounce all my ideas off of, because sometimes I know that if I'm left by myself to bounce my own ideas around, then sometimes I get real I'm real agreeable to myself. Oh yeah, Cam, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. Let's think that. Let's go down this road, right? And I've learned that you need other people. You need other people that can handle the same heat that you're going through. And that's something that takes a real reality check. And it sucks, man, because you have to realize that so many people in your life, they're honestly not fit to be there. They can't handle the shit that you go through on a daily basis. They can't take a mindset of improvement. They can't take a mindset of honesty. They can't take a mindset of loyalty, dedication, family, whatever it is, right? And then you realize in our day-to-day lives, like when life gets uncomfortable, when the bills are due, or when someone's struggling, or when the car broke down or is about to break down, or when the kids are acting a fool, yeah, our jobs are still there. Our necessities are still there. The weather is still there. Everything is still there. But what are you going to choose to do about it? And here's where I say that I get real irritated is what we're not going to do is sit around and talk about how hot it is for all day long. And in our real lives, what I'm not going to do is sit around and listen to people complain about shit that there is no resolution to. And I've kind of talked about this in past episodes where it's like, as a man, you don't care about, and I'm not saying this about every man, I'm not saying this about every situation in my own life, but I'm saying, as a man, if you can't care about every little thing, and I'm trying not to make things personal to certain people that may listen, but I'm using a bland example. I'm not talking about anyone, exactly. But like when, and it's hard not to relate it to my own situation and then say, oh, this isn't about someone, but I can use my situation in this. When your mother is dying of cancer and things are like actively getting very bad, and you're finally back on a healthy routine and habits and doing good for yourself, and you're doing good for your kids, financially holding things pretty okay, you don't have the place in your life for people that want to be like, oh, I didn't sleep very well last night, and my head's a little hurting, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's just out of the weather. And then when you check in with them later, it's like, oh, the weather sucks and my head still hurts and I'm tired. And it's like, okay. I think after the age of 30, we can all agree we wake up with aches and pains, whatever those are. The weather does make those worse. Headaches, body aches, knee aches, whatever. So we're all hurt. We're all tired. None of us sleep well. As a collective, we're all struggling mentally. Those of us that are trying to not struggle anymore, it's important that you dedicate to yourself that you don't start your day at a baseline of shit, right? So even if you don't feel great, even if mentally you don't want to, and this is where I'm going to probably get myself in a little bit of trouble. If you've just dedicated to yourself that you're not gonna because you're not gonna, that is you signing yourself up for a life that is so black and white miserable. And I know maybe this is kind of going off on a little rant or a tangent of sorts, but like, I know so many situations in my own personal life where I know people, and I've sat with them and I've listened to their hopes and their dreams and their fears, and I've listened to the voice of their parents come out of their own mouth by hearing them say that they're no good. I've listened to past lovers of theirs come out of their mouth and say that they're no good, or that they need to do this, or they need to not do this. I hear the voice of their friends coming out of their mouth talking about, well, if you would do this, then I would, whatever. And I'll tell you something. Nobody goes and seeks for advice more than the person who knows what the fuck they're supposed to do. and is choosing not to do it. Because here's the reality of life. You can go on Google to www.tellmeimright.com, and you can find whatever bullshit answer you want to tell you that your parents are narcissists and they were abusive, and so were every single one of your exes, and all your friends left you because they're the problem. Hey, guess what? No. We, as grown individuals, do not get to walk around in the heat of life and blame your parents for the way that they raised you or possibly didn't raise you. You don't get to walk around and blame your ex for the reason that you're fucking up your current relationship. You don't get to sit around and fake illnesses and complain about petty inconveniences when you are sitting in a life that you created for yourself, which was chosen out of darkness and misery. Hey, if darkness and misery is what you seek, I promise you guys, it's out there. And let me tell you a fast track to finding it. Lock yourself away in a secluded home, void of love and connection and stuff like that. Lock yourself away. Stay in bed. And when you do get out of bed, eat like shit. Watch bullshit on TV that fills your mind with nonsense. Usually more dark and misery shit. Isn't that the way it goes? When life goes to hell in a handbasket, don't we always find people, like, you go over to their house to check on them or something, it's like, bro, what the fuck are you watching? And it's some, like, dark murder, gang, for, like, my homies and shit, gang banging stuff, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? You just got out of jail, trying to get your life together, and I come over to check on you, make sure you're good, whatever, and you're watching gangbanging shit. What the fuck do you think is about to happen? In the same regard, for all my mental health strugglers out there, you're worried about anxiety and depression, and life is telling you that you're no good and life is dangerous, which is why you have anxiety, because you're so worked up about whatever could possibly come. But at night, you cuddle up to a murder documentary about serial killers who do unspeakable things to people and kids and stuff. And then you're supposed to wake up and have a good day. Or sleep well at night. That's crazy. That's crazy. In the same regard, like, I had to check myself on the stuff I was listening to, some of the songs I was listening to, and then the way that my attitude was in certain aspects of my life. Like when I was at work and things were getting uncomfortable, I was quick to be like, yo, what? But then I'm riding around listening to DaBaby the whole way home, and it's like, well, yeah, okay. What you think about, what you put inside your head is going to drastically affect the things that come out of your mouth, the actions you take. And all I'll tell you is, if you can't stand the heat of life, baby, never put that gaslight out. But yo, here's the reality. Life is a restaurant. It is. And it's got many offerings. You could get offered up, some real shitty situations, or you could have an amazing experience. The fact of the matter is, some people are meant to be in the back, creating, helping others create, learning what it is to be a leader and a supporter, learning the ins and outs of complex situations and hospitality. And there are other people that are meant to be sitting and enjoying the experience. Some people don't have what it takes to be in the mix, to try to create, to try to make things better. And I'm not sitting here making a restaurant job out to be this righteous thing or something. I'm using it as an example. I have always been a creator. I want to create. I want to find the bounds of where we can go, and then I want to push it further. That's in every aspect of my life. When I work, I don't just work somewhere. I work to grow whatever it is that we're doing. I never take a job or something where I can't see that there's a future where we're going to grow together in whatever facet that may be. In relationships, I don't want to just maintain. I don't want to just survive. I want to grow. I want to build a magical life. I want to build a life that like isn't posted online, but yo, in our heads, we would make movies about this. But the movies are up here. And they're actually happening because we're actually taking the time to dedicate to be what we're supposed to be. Life gets uncomfortable. And if you've ever worked in a restaurant, you know that life has many different characters in it. You got your addicts, you got your mentally unwell people, you got your people with terrible family lives, you got people dealing with jail sentences and family people going to jail and losing family members. I mean, you get the whole spectrum of life. You get to see everybody. You get to see young kids just starting out for the first time, and you get to see people that have worked there for 20 some years. And you get to see everything in between. And I could just tell you from mass observation, the people that get used to sitting and watching the madness, because it is. There's something to going to a restaurant and just seeing the way everything works, and you're like, oh man, I wonder what's going on back there. But if you were to meet somebody and you ask them, what do you do for a living? They go, oh, I work at, whatever, Texas Roadhouse or whatever. You'd be like, oh, okay. But if you watch the way that they work and the skill and the dedication it does take to make an operation like that work, you realize that these people, while very challenged in certain areas, they always make it work. Somehow, the food always comes out. The person always gets talked to and is happy before they leave. And if there's not, there was nothing else we could do in that situation. The shit always gets cleaned. The thing always comes through. And you realize those are the people that make it. Everyone else, they get weeded out. If you can't deal with the heat of dealing with 3 sinks and doing dishes night after night after night while running around and delivering shit and like making stuff and making sure that this part of the kitchen's good, and then going out to the front and making sure they're good. Like, if you can't handle that, well, then you're not in the right place. There's a place for you, but it's to go sit out there. And I think so many of us need to start looking at, first off, how intense is the heat of your life? Are you really going through it, or are you creating more shit for yourself? Because I can tell you, a lot of people who I've sat with and coddled about shit, I've left going, God, I wish that was my biggest problem in the day. And I'm not sitting here judging anyone. Like, everyone's worst day is their worst day. But some of us have gotten so insanely comfortable that like people have to create shit in their own life to keep it interesting. When things are going too smooth, they throw a chaos bomb into their own life so they have something to call someone and complain about and gossip about and do whatever. And it's like, man. And unfortunately, you see that in the environment I work in as well. I work in a bar. So you see people create so many problems for themselves. Night after night after night after night. And you see the same people coming in doing the same nonsense. Talking about the same bullshit. And I always look at those people and I'm like, why do you come here? Like, I've been a regular at a bar before, but what benefit do you really get? You could get beer and shit from anywhere. What benefit do you have to come in here just to watch this operation work? Because that's really all you're doing when you're sitting at a bar. You want to be around other people that are doing shit so you're not sitting by yourself. And I have had to learn that while sitting by yourself for the majority of the time is tough, it definitely comes with moments of severe, like, walls collapsing fucking sadness for sure, when you have to just sit and reflect and meditate on life and all the things that have happened, sure. But I've also learned, like, that's just another fire to be put out, which is you can sit and you can feel, but you can't reminisce. You can't sit and count on the actions of another person, meaning, like, had they not done this, then maybe I wouldn't have done this, and then this wouldn't have happened, or, well, if they wanted to, they would, kind of thing. You could sit around and do that with so many situations in your life and go, well, if they would just do this one thing, or had they not done this one thing. But at the end, I think we all have to really look at it and go, everybody at the end of the day does what they want to do. Every single day. And they do what they want to do because either they're living in survival at the time, or they've gotten so comfortable doing those things that they literally can't comprehend another way of life. But here's something that I always used to ask when I went to formal churches, which is, okay, you say that all we have to do is accept the word of Christ and we're saved forever. But what about the people that live on like a deserted island that's literally never heard about the word of Christ? Are they just damned to hell forever? It wasn't their fault. They just never made it around people that had the knowledge. And the same token is, like, can you condemn someone for living a life that they want to live, even if you think you know better, or you have made observations about their life and you go, hey, if you X, Y, and Z, your life could get significantly better? Well, here's the thing is, once you have told someone something, then it's a choice. So once you say, hey, you doing these things is not good for you, and I only want what's best for you, even if I'm not it. And that's where so many of us in our personal relationships, and I'm going to end on this, need to be more willing in today's day and age. If you have a partner in your life, if you have a friend in your life, if you have a family dynamic in your life that feels like it's very tension filled, and you guys almost know that there's this like almost breaking point going on, ask the person this. This will find out if you really love them. Ask them, would your life be easier right now if I took a step back? Am I making things more complicated for you? Because I don't want to do that. I can honestly say, in the most important part of my life, I did do that. I did offer to take a step back, but I did it begrudgingly. I didn't do it lovingly. I didn't do it as in, would it be, because from my observations, I think it would be in your best interest, so you could be happy and healthy and think clearly, if I take a step back from your life right now. But here's what that's going to look like. That's going to be less communicating. That's going to be less me being around. That's going to be less me putting effort into certain situations that we talked about. Because if I'm being asked to pull my energy back, I'm going to pull it all the way back. And here's what you have to decide when if you really love someone and you're giving them the space to figure out who they are and what they want. You're both making a mutual agreement. We might see each other again. Might not. But you left it with love, to where it was like, I love you enough I want you to go find you. I want you to find the people or the person or the city or the whatever that's going to ultimately make you happy, or even if that's just what you think is going to make you happy right now. And if you realize that you're wrong and, whatever, and life brings you back, or, brings us to the same grocery store and, hey, how's it going one day? Hey, that's not for us to decide. But when you do things and you go, yeah, okay, take that space. and then you go crawl up under somebody else, or you start taking on bad habits, or you start treating people terribly and creating a bad reputation for yourself because you didn't walk away lovingly. So now you're carrying a bunch of pain and stuff, toxicity and stuff like that. You're carrying it around with you. All you're doing is destroying yourself and showing everyone around you that you can't handle it. You can't handle the heat that life is throwing at you right now. And I'll tell you, there's nothing worse than being useless. To be useless, not good for your kids, you're not good for your job. What do you think you're attracting then? What kind of people do you think you're attracting into your life by being a mess? And what kind of people do you think you're attracting into your life by sitting around and making all the excuses that you validated to yourself as to why your life is not what you wanted it to be? Because guess what? I promise you, there's enough Facebook friends out there. You can message someone that'll act like they give a shit for an hour. And you could tell them about what an asshole this person is, and your boss is that, and your ex is this, and your parents were that. And I promise you there's people that'll sit and listen to it. More watchers, more complainers, and guess what? What I've always seen happen is when those people collectively get together and they start doing this more and more often, what ends up happening? They end up talking shit about them to somebody else. Because why? Birds of a feather always flock together. And if you are dedicated to drama, bullshit, and just constant madness, hey, I'll pray for you. But that's all I can do these days. I love you guys. See you in the next one.